Okay. 23 minutes in. No, you cannot donate for that, Hazardous. Welcome to Loreweek. I'm your host. And today... Oh, I forgot to pull the quote up. Hang on a second. Today we'll be talking about all sorts of things. Let's talk about the show first, because that's the easy one. One moment. Damn it, it should be in this page. Oh, whatever. So, let's talk about the show first, shall we? I was kind of baiting you a little bit there, admittedly. So, we're done with YouTubing. I kind of already said that, but just to make it nice and official, we're done with YouTubing. 2020's videos are done. Processed, rendered, uploaded, blah, blah, blah. There's going to be some mic issues with about 3 of the Friday Ruminations. Not much I can do about that other than re-record them. If you want me to re-record those, screw you. Now, just thought I'd give that a heads up. What else? God, now I'm trying to remember what all this stuff is I was going to talk about with the show. Right. So Vigilant, since you're here, Vigilant brought up a problem. Vigilant said... Hang on, let me pull up the exact message. Okay, and I quote. Vigilant says, Lore, you suck and I hate you. You are the worst streamer in the known universe. Die in a fire. Okay, now I wanted to address this directly. Because, actually it was about 7 weeks, Shikor. It is a problem, and look, I'm trying very hard to die in a fire. The problem is, it's raining right now. I'm not actually joking, it is raining. I had to take the trash out earlier, that's how I know. So, it's kind of hard to have that happen. Like, it's possible, but you really need to get it going, you know? And this is a newer building, so... I'm sorry, Vigilant, but I'm not going to be able to die in a fire, so I'm just going to have to wait a little bit more. But what I really wanted to talk about is the Streamination. So for those of you not aware, I'm still plugging these. I'm going to still keep plugging these for a bit. We have basically a new feature. They are called Streaminations. They are basically the merger of Ruminations, Mini-Nations, and discussion streams. And all 3 of those... I have burning scars, I can show you. All 3 of those have been smashed into one awesome stream, which is amazing. Now, so far the Streaminations have been extremely successful. The current Streamination thing we've been going through is My Little Pony, which is rather apropos since the final episode just went live 2 days ago, 1 day ago, pretty recently. So you woo, as the saying goes. We're doing it in the same general format that we do most of our other things. 1 episode, 1 week. So, in other words, rather than doing, 10 episodes a week, we're doing 1, okay? Now, the big problem, and I want to talk this out a little bit for those of you who aren't aware of this, the big problem is Mini-Nations were killing me. Like, I would, as I've said many times before, if I hadn't done the Young Justice Mini-Nations, I would have been done with the YouTubing 2 weeks ago. Like, those things take an inordinate amount of time to do, thanks to the specific nature of what they are, versus how many they did come out. 9 seasons, Fusion Catalyst. Anyways, so it was something that had to stop happening. It's why I basically chopped off no more Futures Mini-Nations, because I couldn't commit to it anymore. Any time I spent on Mini-Nations was time I wasn't spending on either Ruminations or streaming, the main content of the show. And I already don't have a life, you know what I mean? Now, it's not complaining, it's just a statement of fact. Now, Hushy Love, he wants me to go ahead and do these Streaminations at a specific time. I don't know what time that is, though, because it varies from person to person. Now, this is the catch. This is what I wanted to talk about here. Right now, the Streaminations happen every Sunday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is midnight GMT, for about another 3 weeks. Then it'll change, because Daylight Savings Time is stupid. Thank you very much, Hushy Love. Much obliged to the sub, as always, sir. Thank you. You know the question. Maybe you don't know the question. Where would you like to put that? Now, obviously, I do want the streaminations to happen. They've been wildly successful, and I like doing them, and you guys like doing them. We're all cool. It also is the only way we continue going forward doing other shows. So, this leads to the question of when exactly we do them. And that's kind of the catch. So, Vigilant reached out to me, for real. She love to astral chain. There we go. Vigilant actually reached out to me and was like, look, dude, I can't catch your MLP streams, the streaminations, because they're too late for me. And I was like, well, yeah, that sucks. The problem was I couldn't conceive of a way to adjust it, because no matter when I put it, it's going to be bad some way or another. I'm already basically killing my Sunday evening of, not work time to work to do the streaminations. It's not like I have a lot of room to move that. But then I started thinking about it. I was like, well, I could actually adjust it in one direction or another, basically putting it at, for example, the beginning of a typical stream schedule rather than the end of it, because we are still streaming on Sundays. It's just we chop the Sunday streams off earlier, 1 hour earlier specifically, in order to give people a chance to exist and me a chance to get food in me before switching over to the Streamination stream. So we could adjust the time. It could happen basically at 10 a.m. or at 8 p.m. These are the only real options, though. The day doesn't matter, really, although Sunday is a pretty good day, so I'm cool with keeping it on Sunday. But these are the options. So, hypothetically, if we shifted it back to 10 a.m., we would have the Streamination and then Loreweek, or Loreweek then Streamination, one of the two. And then, regular streaming after that. So, no matter what I do, there are going to be people who are not happy with this, because because everyone has different schedules at different times when they're awake. So there's no good answer here, and that's part of why I look at this like, ugh. Now, I'm looking at my notes here. And by no, that would be 2 p.m. GMT. Oh yeah, speaking of which, someone asked when daylight saving time is. It's November 3rd, which I'm pretty sure is 3 weeks from now. Yep, 3 weeks from today is daylight savings time. So it'll change. It'll change when exactly the GMT time is, because life is stupid and the world is dumb. Any questions? This will be behind, I think. I'm not sure. I use computers nowadays. God, that hurts. Not all of Europe. Anyways. But yeah, so... So Vigilant, first of all, obviously I care about your thoughts. Some of you are probably wondering why I'm specifically calling Vigilant out on this. He was one of the, 8 people who funded the MLP mini-nations. Shadowlink was as well, but he's not on. Savicom was as well, but she's not on. And most of the other people wanted to stay anonymous, but... Point being... Stargates. So we're going to go ahead and start a poll. Let's just do this nice and simply. Make it nice and simple. We'll give you 3 choices here. Thank you very much, card thrower. Much obliged, sir. Like a voot. Here, let me get the... Oh, God, I haven't done this in so long. Why am I in so much pain right now? God. Let me get the vote thing up. Oh, I know why I'm in pain. Card thrower. That's right. Thank you very much, card thrower. Sorry, I'm just... My brain... Okay, so go vote on that. That's, I think, it for show news. Obviously, the website is updated, so what we're doing up next is going to be a thing, etc., etc. That is a spread. But, no, I need a lot more than 22 people voting on that. So, voot! Damn it. All right. Oh, my God, why? 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 What did I do to deserve this? Oh, thank you, Von Baconator. Much appreciate. Thank you. 8 p.m. So, 8 p.m. would be like 10. No, it would be 12 hours later. No, that's wrong. It is 10. Got it. Go with your gut, Laura. What's the other thing I wanted to talk about? Right, so just random news. I do actually have some random news things. Hang on, let me shuffle this over here. So, where's the topic? Here we go. So while you're all voting on that, let's talk about random news. So, you know, they missed a huge opportunity with the Final Fantasy VII Remake coming out next year, because they had the perfect chance to actually dub it Final Fantasy VII Remake-O. Actually, in the interest of honesty, that would probably be the FF7 Remako, because of the stupid way they pronounce it. Anyway, so, getting to actual news. Oh, come on! Thank you very much, Valdaris. Oh, I appreciate the sub, and welcome to the Year Club. If you happen to know where you'd like to put that, just let me know. Okay, credit where credit is due. That one actually came from PAX. Baldur's Gate 3, you got it. So, I've always been the dad joke king. So, real quick. You've probably heard of the game Fortnite, right? Like, I'm sure some of you have heard of this game. There is a law firm out there that is trying to sue Epic because Fortnite, and I gotta quote this one. I've got to quote this. The firm compares Fortnite to cocaine and tobacco, claiming Epic knowingly put on the market a very addictive game, which was also geared towards youth. It believes the case has the legal basis as a 2015 class action lawsuit against tobacco companies for not informing customers of the danger to their health. Yeah, no, they're going after them because they have money. I mean, this is kind of a duh, if we're being honest. Fortnite is well known and makes lots of money. That's it. That's the reasoning. That's the actual purpose behind this. It's always about money, right? Speaking of which, this is a fun one. Google Stadia. I'm sure some of you have actually heard about this little one. I actually have a thing somewhere. I have a lot of links right now to keep track of. There we go. So, as usual, I'm going to go ahead and quote this in stream, and I'll be linking these in the eventual thing. But to talk about this, Google Stadia has touted it's going to be faster and more responsive than local hardware. Okay, hold up. Before I actually go into how stupid this is, process that for a second. Process that Eberron is awesome. Seriously. They're trying to say that any form of internet interaction is going to be faster than a local hardware connection. A local console hardware connection. Thank you very much. Oh, shoot. Who was it? I saw a sub. It was from Eberron. Thank you very much, Eberron. Much appreciated, sir. And I will put that towards Link's Awakening. It is faster to get food delivered than getting it from the fridge. Now, this is even better. Hang on. Check this out. Check this out. So they have this thing called negative latency, which will act as a workaround for any potential lag between player and server. This term describes a buffer of predicted latency similar to Stadia player setup or connection, inherent to Stadia player setup or connection, in which the Stadia system will run lag mitigations. This includes increasing FPS rapidly to reduce latency between player input and display, or even predicting user inputs. Now, Google did actually respond to this. Here it is. I was trying to find the exact quote. Google received respond to this, saying that negative latency powered by a data center's worth of compute silicon may offer future cloud gaming systems flexibility to anticipate the likely action of a user and ensure a speedy response ready for that potential eventuality. However, whether or not a player takes the anticipated path or another depends entirely on local player inputs. Now, this is nonsense. Let's go ahead and start with that. But it's not... I'm trying to think of explain how nonsense... Anybody out there with any kind of tech backing is probably just rolling their eyes at this one, right? Like, I am a massive noob when it comes to tech, anything but networking. Like, that was my field, was networking. Any of you guys out there who know computer software and design or the nature of processing power and all that, you probably are looking at this being like, uh-huh. Right. Wink, wink. In case you missed that, he said that they're going to be spending additional processing power on trying to determine multiple paths of likely input from the player to compensate for latency, and then immediately process the one that actually happens. Okay, that's what they mean when they say negative latency, for anybody who didn't catch that. Now, to give a direct example of that, one moment. I'm actually, you know what, yeah, let's move this over here. Give me a second. So if I were to, for example, here we go. So if I was to hit, so there's a lot of things I could do here, right? Whoops, that was not something. So I could, for example, jump. I could, do the hat flip, or, I don't know, I could do a backflip, okay? There's obviously more like 50,000 things I could do, but let's just presume for the moment that there's only 3 things I could do, okay? So what they would do then, this is hysterical. What they would do is the actual hardware on their end would basically run all 3 of those events simultaneously, which, by the way, is not nearly as fun as it sounds and not as easy as it sounds, and basically would require a complete hardware restructuring of how hardware works. But, okay, so they do that, and then you actually hit the button, and then the one that they already predicted they show, because on their end, you've already done this. Then they do it again, and again, and again, and again, and again, forever. This is total nonsense. Like, at every level. Moving on. I don't even have anything else to add to that. That is just such complete ridiculousness. So the PlayStation 5 got announced officially. I mean, it's been hinted at for forever. So this is the official announcement of the PS5, as usual. Linking links. That's not that's not the control button. There we go. PlayStation 5 is coming out in about a year and 3 months, give or take. Or a year and 2 months, excuse me. It's coming out December next year-ish. Okay? But this is the kind of strange thing for me. So, they talked more about their controller. Now, I was kind of hoping that they were going to be doing something kind of like this with their controller. I think that would be awesome. I love the split controller thing. However, instead, what they're doing is they're adding adaptive haptic feedback, is what they call it. This is actually kind of the same thing that these already have, just to another level. Basically, different types of interactions and vibrations and whatever in the actual controller to simulate different types of tactile sensation. Hopefully that'll be a feature we can turn off, because that's going to kill the battery. The next thing, this one actually kind of irritates me a little bit, and this is something I really hope they have the option for turning off, is adaptive triggers. So L2 and R2 here, they'll have the ability so you can program this specific resistance that these triggers give you. The example they give is if you draw a bow back, it'll basically get harder to pull back as you pull it taut. Which, again, to me, that just means finger cramping. But whatever, PS5, woo. Hopefully all this stuff will be coming up. Meanwhile, here's another announcement. This announcement is that they are... So, for those of you not aware, Sony has been restructuring a huge amount of their internal offices for financial reasons for the better part of, like, 8 months or something like that at this point. So a lot of people got fired. Woo! This is, yeah, this is messed up. A lot of people got fired. Good timing on that. Good timing on that announcement. Probably chocolate, Rob. Moving on. Is that it? Oh, that's it for my random news, isn't it? Damn. All right. Well, we've circled the drain long enough. We've actually been talking for 45 minutes. Let's talk about the Blizzard thing. Hi, Gary. What do you want to put your sub towards? Thank you for the sub. You're awesome. Yeah, I know South Park got banned. I also know the NBA got banned. Although that's kind of an ongoing and on-developing situation. Do I have any good news? No. I've seen that. Hazardous. Trust me, I've seen it. Do I have any funny news? No. I do need to find this. Oh yeah, by the way, let's talk about something real quick, shall we? I went looking into this whole situation. And I went looking into it hard. A lot harder than I usually do. I know that sounds like a strange statement, but I try to do due diligence when it comes to my streams. I did serious digging into this one because this was a very complex situation and had a lot of screaming about it. And anytime I hear screaming, that's not cool, basically. Guys, I need help really quick. Heir to the Empire, which chapter is it when Luke is on the planet with Talon Card while Thrawn shows up? No, say what you want, Magister. Say what you want. It's okay. I have heard all kinds of things that I guarantee are worse than anything you guys are going to say. I guarantee it. Sorry, I do want to find a quote in here. It's actually relevant. It is actually relevant to the situation. Oh, never mind. I found it. I found it. It's chapter 22. There it is. There's the exact quote I was looking for. Page 266. We'll get there. I think the situation is... All right. I actually have notes on how I want to discuss this. So, summary of what happened. Let's cover the baseline facts. During some tournament, I don't know the specific name, there was a very good Hearthstone player from Hong Kong named Blitzchung, who was being... Now, this is important, okay? I'm going to try to be as contextual as I can. I'm also going to try very hard to remove my opinion from this section of the stream, okay? I'm also going to do a point and kind of not actually look at chat for a second, okay? Apparently it was the Grandmaster Hearthstone tournament in Taiwan. It's even funnier, given the Taiwan situation. But moving on. So, towards the end, he had put on the typical... Actually, let's rewind a second. Hang on. So... Okay. We're still in the realm of fact, right? I think we're all... Okay, cool. Okay. The Chinese government is very oppressive in terms of what it allows and what does not. This is not opinion. This is a statement of fact. Now, the Chinese government does, therefore, impose a fairly large amount of specific restrictions with regards to what anyone can do with regards to doing business in China. Okay? With me so far? Now, China, there's a very complex situation regarding China and Hong Kong, which goes all the way back to the Opium Wars, which I don't actually recommend looking into. If I'm being completely honest, it's a mess. But the relevant point is that China technically kind of owns Hong Kong, but also kind of doesn't. You know, the whole two nations, one flag, or whatever the hell they call it system. It is a mess. And that is the simplest possible way I could put that. It is a mess, okay? Now, as a consequence of that, Hong Kong has been a bit of a balancing act with regards to internal rights, internal privileges, and how its people have certain specific regards of things we would consider normal, like the ability to say, just to use a direct example, the leader of our country looks like a pig or whatever, right? I know that's not the direct example, but I can say Donald Trump looks like a pig. I have that right to do that here. That is a legally protected right for me. In Hong Kong, this is more of a kind of a thing. It's generally they're leaning more on the freedom of expression side of things than on the restriction side of things, okay? However, recently, and by recently I mean this is actually earlier this year, there was a movement to force an extradition treaty onto Hong Kong. Now, I have to admit, I could speak a lot just on this exact topic, but I've decided to summarize it to 2 bullet points, okay? Extradition treaties are when one nation recognizes the legal right of another nation to have legal, that is to say, judicial jurisdiction over entities within someone else's nation, okay? Now, what this means, again, to boil it down to 2 points, is if you live in Babistan and I live in Babonia, and you commit a crime in Babistan and you come here, and we have an extradition treaty, then I now have the legal right and overall authority to arrest you for a crime you didn't commit in my sovereignty on their behalf. You with me? Now, you could see why this is actually kind of a good thing, because it means that, you know, if you're a mass murderer and you whoom over here, you're not free, right? That's a duh. And that is the main original point of extradition treaties as they were presented. However, there is also another point to be made, and that means that you now have the legal right to demand something for someone, blah, 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 for circumstances that are a lot less cut and dry. For example, let's say that for whatever reason, you have someone who is what we call a political prisoner. someone who is saying something that is unpopular with their government or has done no real crime, and they flee to my country, and now they're asking for you back, so it is incumbent upon me to push you back over there for something you kind of didn't really do. You could see how that kind of leads to a problem with that perspective, right? Now, it's worth noting that extradition treaties are not guarantees. However, historically speaking, it's like a 99 point etc. % thing. This goes back, again, centuries. This is how extradition treaties have been used for a very long time. Okay? Now, China wished to enforce an extradition treaty onto Hong Kong. The dilemma becomes obvious, right? Because it's worth noting that in the more modern era, let's say you live here, but you commit a crime on there. They then could request extradition to there. Okay? Now, the concern here is obvious. Now, this is a still developing circumstance. The initial push at the extradition treaty was dropped. However, there is still some political and economic pressure that's being pushed onto the situation, and there is still very serious concerns within various Hong Kong people, and that this is going to be a problem going forward, and they want more segregation between China and Hong Kong. Hence, these kind of protesters. Now, I'm going to go out of my way to not describe the specifics of the protesting, but this is what is being protested. Okay? We all caught up? Getting back to the Hearthstone Grandmasters tournament, Blitzchung was, along with the two casters who were casting it, they basically kind of conspired. The casters were egging him on, and they were kind of giggling at it like they were nervous, or like it was just kind of a light joke sort of a thing. Like, come on, go and say it, say the 8 words, we'll cut to credits, or cut to commercial. And so Blitzchung then said, I forget the exact quote. It was something like, all my notes, I don't have the exact quote. Free Hong Kong, revolution of our time, I believe, is something like that. That's it. Very, very simple. Very, very basic. They then cut to break. Now, we're still in the realm of fact. The casters were encouraging him. This has been confirmed by multiple sources. And even a cursory glance of it, from anyone who understands human behavior, can tell that they were in on the joke. This is a duh. Now, this then led to some fact that, to my knowledge, very few people are reporting. What happened then, yes, excuse me, I thought I mentioned that earlier. He had the gas mask on and the sign of the protest. But anyways, to reiterate, he was wearing the visual signs of the protest. This is being broadcast on the Taiwanese stream of the post-game interview from him winning the Grandmaster tournament. He was the winner of the entire thing. So now getting to the fact that very few other people are reporting on. What happened next was a pause of 48 hours, roughly. That, I think, is critical, and I'm going to draw attention to that once again, because it was a good 48 hours, 2 days, before anything actually happened. Then, the casters were fired. The gentleman himself was kicked out of the tournament with a year ban. They were given a year ban. He had all of his winnings removed. Okay? Now, shortly thereafter that, there was an official response on the matter. Actually, that's a lie. There were 2 official responses on the matter. Now, I'm going to read to you the official response in English. This is the one that came out here in the States. Okay, you ready for me? Upon further review, we have found action that violated the 2019 Hearthstone Grandmasters Official Competition Rules Section 6.1, Section O, and is individual behavior which does not represent Blizzard or Hearthstone esports, which is found below. This is the ruling. This is the part of the rules that he violated. And I quote, engaging in any act that, in Blizzard's sole discretion, brings you into public disrepute, offends a portion of the group of public, or otherwise damages Blizzard's reputation, damages Blizzard's image will result in removal from Grandmasters and reductions of the player's prize total to $0 USD, in addition to other remedies which may be provided under the handbook and Blizzard's website terms. So that's the ruling. The ruling continues. Grandmasters is the highest tier of Hearthstone esports, and we take tournament rule violations very seriously. After an investigation, 48 hours, remember, we are taking necessary action to prevent similar incidents from happening in the future. Effective immediately, Blitzchung is removed from Grandmasters, will receive no prizing for Grandmaster Season 2. Additionally, Blitzchung is ineligible to participate in Hearthstone esports for 12 months, beginning from October 5th, 2019, and extending to October 5th, 2020. We will also immediately cease working with both casters. We'd like to re-emphasize tournament and player conduct within the Hearthstone esports community from both players and talent. While we stand by one's right to express individual thoughts and opinions, players and other participants that elect to participate in our esports competitions must abide by official competition rules. Okay? We're still in the realm of fact. Then they made a post on, Weibo or whatever. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head. No, it's Weibo. Weibo? I don't know how to pronounce it. It's their Twitter, okay? Now, this is the funny part. So, I'm going to read to you the version of this you have probably heard most first, okay? This is a translation of this. So this is what was sent to Chinese media, supposedly. And I gotta say that because we'll get there. We are very angered and disappointed at what happened at the event and do not condone it in any way. We also highly object to the spreading of personal political beliefs in this matter. Effective immediately, we've banned the contestant from events and terminated work with the broadcasters. We will always respect and defend the pride of our country. Here's another version of that. We express our strong indignation and condemnation of the events that occurred at the Hearthstone Asia Pacific competition last weekend and absolutely oppose the dissemination of personal political ideas during the events and/or games. The players involved will be banned and commentators involved immediately terminated from official business. We will also protect our national dignity. That is a different translation of the exact same quote. I have a third one. I actually went out of my way to find the original post in Mandarin, and I decided to run it through a translator to see what it came up as. And I quote, "We express our strong indignation and condemnation of the events at the competition last weekend and resolutely oppose the dissemination of personal political ideas in any event. The involved players will be banned and relevant explanations will be immediately terminated by any official work. At the same time, we will, as always, resolutely safeguard our national dignity." That's just a straight Google Translate. So which of those three are the correct ones? I don't know. I don't speak Mandarin. Or read Mandarin, I suppose. I wanted to point this out because basically everyone has been quoting the first quote, the first translation, and I have seen basically no one quoting the second translation, and I have seen no one quoting the direct translation, which is the one I just did. Because, in other words, no one else has been trying to do their own translation like I just did. Either way, it is probably worth noting that all of them do make a specific point of country dignity or national honor or national pride. So, based on the fact that all three of those, that's what I call a direct translation, Tigzar. After all, a direct translation is almost always wrong. But all three of these make that same point, which means this is 100% a surety, something that has been pushed by some form of Chinese government in one way or another. It's worth noting Blizzard does have offices in China that are run by people who are under the Chinese government, okay? I want you to keep that in mind, because statistically speaking, this initial response probably came from that office. Now, so that was the initial response. So I had a lot of other things to talk about here. Then Blizzard actually responded. Blizzard, as an aggregate, was basically radio silent for about 4 days. Yeah, that's right. Tuesday to Friday evening. Now, I am mentioning this fact as well. I've noticed only one other person is mentioning this fact. This is actually important. Blizzard did give an official response to this. It came out Friday evening. Now, you're probably thinking, why the hell does that matter, Lore? It actually matters for two very important reasons. First of all, this is a classic strategy with regards to releasing any kind of information that might be seen as bad for your company. You release it towards the end of the week, right on Friday evening. People are less likely to see it. Actual news broadcasting stations are less likely to actually get on board, actually reporting on it or whatever. And this is the most important part. The stock market's closed. So any stock market shifts have several days to kind of work out the initial quakes before anything actually happens. This is very, very, very common. I just want to make that clear. A lot of people, I'm sure Huthor could appreciate this, a lot of people tend to think that this is all a Blizzard thing. No, trust me, everyone does this. So, the official Blizzard response, hang on, I gotta find this one, because there's just I have so many links everywhere for this. I actually don't have a link straight to the official Blizzard response. You can find, I'm using MMO Champions link right now. I don't want to read this whole thing. I really don't. It's actually quite long. But I'm going to read this whole thing. It's my job. So I'm going to do my job. So hang on. Hello, Blizzard community. I want to take a few minutes to talk to all of you about the Hearthstone Grandmasters Tournament over the past weekend. On Monday, we made the decision to take action against a player named Blitzchung and two shoutcasters after the player shared his views on what's happening in Hong Kong on our official broadcast channel. At Blizzard... Hang on. This is actually going to be important. So, paragraph. At Blizzard, our vision is, quote, to bring the world together through epic entertainment, unquote. And we have core values that apply here, semicolon. Think globally, lead responsibly, and importantly, every voice matters, encouraging everybody to share their point of view. The actions that we took over the weekend are causing people to question if we are still committed to these values. Yes, absolutely, we absolutely are, and I will explain. Our esports program are an expression of our vision and our values. Esports exists to create opportunities for players from around the world, from different cultures and from different backgrounds to come together to compete and share their passion for gaming. It is extremely important to us to protect these channels and the purpose they serve, to bring the world together through epic entertainment, celebrate our players, and build diverse and inclusive communities. As to how those values apply in this case, paragraph. First, our official esports tournament broadcast was used as a platform for a winner of this event to share his views with the world. Indent. We interview competitors who are at the top of their craft to share how they feel. We want to experience that moment with them. Hearing their excitement is a powerful way to bring us together. Over the weekend, Blitzchung used his segment to make a statement about the situation in Hong Kong in violation of the rules he acknowledged and understood, and this is why we took action. Every voice matters, and we strongly encourage everyone in our community to share their viewpoints in the many places available to express themselves, however. The official broadcast needs to be about the tournament and to be a place where all are welcome. In support of that, we want to keep the official channels focused on the game. God dang it. Hang on. Undo indent. Second, what is the role of shoutcasters for these broadcasts? Indent. We hire shoutcasters to amplify the excitement of the game. They elevate the watchability and help the esports viewing experience stay focused on the tournament and our amazing players. Undo indent. Third, were our actions based on the content of this mission? Indent. Content of this message? Indent. Part of thinking globally, leading responsibly, and every voice matters is recognizing we have players and fans in almost every country in the world. Our goal is to help players connect in areas of commonality, like their passion for our games, and create a sense of shared community. The specific views expressed by Blitzchung were not a factor in the decision we made. I want to be clear. Our relationship with China had no influence on our decision. We have these rules to keep the focus on the game and the tournament to the benefit of global audience, and that was the only consideration in the action taken. If this had been an opposing viewpoint, delivered in the same divisive and deliberate way, we would have felt and acted the same. Undo indent. Okay, what could Blizzard have done better, and where do we go from here? Indent. Over the past few days, many players, casters, esports fans, and employees have expressed concerns. Oh yeah, actually, while I'm reading this, about that whole employees expressing concern thing. I'm sorry, I have so many tabs right now. This is a picture from Blizzard's headquarters where Blizzard employees were actually going out to protest the whole situation. umbrellas, Hong Kong thing. Anyways, continuing. Over the past few days, many players, casters, esports fans, and employees have expressed concerns about how we determine penalties. We've had a chance to pause, to listen to our community, and to reflect on what we could have done better. In hindsight, our process was inadequate and we acted too quickly, remember that. We want to ensure that we maintain a safe and inclusive environment for all our players and that our rules and processes are clear. All of this is in service of another important Blizzard value. Play nice, play fair. In the tournament itself, Blitzchung played fair. We now believe he should receive his prizing. We understand that for some this is not about the prize, and perhaps others it is disrespectful to even discuss it, but that is not our intention. But playing fair also includes appropriate pre- and post-match conduct, especially when a player accepts recognition for winning in a broadcast. When we think about the suspension, 6 months for Blitzchung is more appropriate, after which time he can compete in the Hearthstone Pro Circuit again if he so chooses. There is consequence for taking the conversation away from the purpose of the event and disrupting or derailing the broadcast. With regard to the casters, remember their purpose is to keep the event focused on the tournament. That didn't happen here, and we are setting their suspension to 6 months as well. I mean, I do, Gary, but anyway. Moving forward, we will continue to apply tournament rules to ensure official broadcasts remain focused on the game and are not a platform for divisive social or political views. One of our goals at Blizzard is to make sure every player everywhere in the world, regardless of political views, religious beliefs, race, gender, or any other consideration, always feels safe and welcome, both competing in and playing our games. At Blizzard, we are always listening and finding ways to improve. It's part of our culture. Thank you for your patience. We're committed. Sincerely, J. Allen Brack, President, Blizzard Entertainment. Okay, that's the official Blizzard response. One more thing before we're done with facts. This is an official statement by Blitzchung after the announcement I just mentioned. Thank you for your attention the past 1 week. This is a personal statement. This is a personal statement and my view on Blizzard's latest decision. First of all, I am grateful for Blizzard reconsidering their position about my ban. Earlier this week, I told media that I knew I might have penalty or for consequence for my act because I understood my act would take the conversation away from the purpose of the event. In the future, I'll be more careful on that and express my opinions or show support for Hong Kong on my personal platform. Many people have been asking me if I accept the decision of Blizzard. I will discuss that on 2 parts: tournament prizing and suspension. For tournament prizing, I quoted what Blizzard said on the official site, and they mentioned I played fair in the tournament. They believe I should receive my prizing. This is the part I really appreciate. Blizzard also said they understand for some this is not about the prize, but perhaps for others it is disrespectful to even discuss it. People from Blizzard have explained this to me through a phone call, and I really appreciate that, and I accept their decision on this part. For the second part about the suspension, Blizzard had changed their suspension from a year to 6 months. Once again, I appreciate their consideration on this. To be honest, I think 6 months is still quite a lot to me. But I also being told that I can continue to compete in the Hearthstone Pro Circuit, which they mean the Grandmaster tournament. I appreciate for this decision they made, because Grandmaster is currently the highest level in tournament in competitive Hearthstone. Sorry, this is obviously being Google translated, basically. However, I wish Blizzard can reconsider about how their... I wish Blizzard can reconsider about their penalty on the 2 casters involved. Lastly, many people want to know if I would be competing in Hearthstone in the future. Honestly, I have no idea on that. Since my next tournament is very likely to be the Grandmaster tournament of the next season, it's probably at least a few months from now. I will take this time to relax myself to decide if I am staying in competitive Hearthstone scene or not. Hearthstone changed the way I live. I really love this community. Blessing to all players out there. Blessing to Blizzard. Facts. Oh, I can read a lot faster than that. I just can't speak much faster, Revenstig. Now, don't let any of this distract you, guys. From the fact that in 1972, a crack commando unit was sent to prison by a military court for a crime they didn't commit. These men promptly escaped from a maximum security stockade to the Los Angeles underground. Today, still wanted by the government, they survive as soldiers of fortune. If you have a problem, if no one else can help, and if you can find them, maybe you can hire the May team. I wrote that one down. I wanted to do it to bracket. All right. Oh, where do I begin? I have the freedom to speak ill of Chinese government. I do. I could say I think they're a load of hogwash if I wanted to, because I'm not financially connected to the Chinese government. That's a good thing. A huge number of companies have chosen to not have that same freedom to do so. Just off the top of my head, Google, Apple, Vans, ESPN, Disney, Reddit, Cathay Pacific, Gap, Audi, TikTok. I actually wrote all those ones down. All of those have the choice. Excuse me, wrong word. I read what Huthor said and it screwed me up. All of those are specific companies that have done this or worse. Some of you have probably heard about what I call the NBA thing. On the off chance you haven't heard about it, I'm not going to go into full detail because I kind of have to. But the full detail of the NBA thing is that whatever you're upset about with this, it's so much worse than this, the NBA thing. In summary, there was one dude who sent out a tweet which was just, yay, go Hong Kong. And then that sent a firestorm. The tweet was deleted. Don't worry, you can still find archives of it. His boss sold him out. People have been going on radio shows bashing this guy for this. The NBA tried to distance themselves as fully as possible with him. It was possible he was actually fired. Oh, and by the way, China still decided to go ahead and remove the NBA from their proceedings. In other words, cutting off the Chinese money. Now's where this quote comes in. I don't want to... No, that's unrelated, Hazardous. That's unrelated to what I'm talking about. You're talking about the other thing. So, like I said, though, I'm not going into the NBA thing. All you need to know is that it's this, but worse. There's this portion where Talon Card is making a decision to Mara Jade, okay? I'm going to avoid some spoilers because I know some of you haven't read this book, but long and the short of it is someone here said, this is not the time or place to turn a prisoner over to the Empire. Do you understand? She responds, no, I don't. He responds, it's a matter of relative strength. Here on the ground, with an Imperial Star Destroyer orbiting overhead, we have no bargaining position at all. I wouldn't do business under such circumstances even if Thrawn was the most trustworthy client in the galaxy, which he's not. Now, the relevance of that quote, and the reason it came immediately to my mind when I was thinking about this, is any company who has a significant investment in Chinese markets has no pull. None. They have no bargaining power. They have nothing on their side. They're on the ground, and the relative equivalent of the Chinese government is a Star Destroyer in space. Okay? Their only choice is to capitulate and do whatever they say and hope, and that's it. You with me? This is why Apple removed the Hong Kong map for protest. This is why they hand over user data. This is why I'm going to pronounce this wrong, Uyghur Muslims had been helped to be rounded up thanks to Google information. This is why Vans removed Hong Kong sneakers from a specific competition. This is why ESPN forbids the discussion of Chinese politics internally. This is why Reddit decided to ban threads talking about this whole situation. This is why Cathay Pacific fired people for Facebook posts. This is why the Gap had to apologize publicly for not showing Taiwan as part of China on a Chinese map on something they were doing. Not off the top of my head, Loner. There are many more examples than this. This was just a handful of things I picked up really quickly. This is really, really common. This is so common as to be normal. Okay? So, opinion. If you are a large-scale company... Oh yeah, also South Park was banned in China because they decided to not put up with their crap like they usually do. Hopefully South Park will not get it in the pants over that. After all, they already have once before. If you don't know what I'm talking about, look up episodes 200 and 201. Yeah, so... opinion. In the most loosest and neutral sense of the word, Blizzard... I'm actually... How do I phrase this? Blizzard's actual ruling, which I read earlier... where was that link? I have so many links up for keeping track of all this crap. Oh, God. Hang on. Hang on. Did I close it? Oh, no, here it is, here it is. Okay, so I want to read this again real quick. Engaging in any act in Blizzard's sole discretion brings you into the public disrepute, offends a portion of the public, or otherwise damages Blizzard's image and will result in removal from Grandmasters and blah, blah, blah. That whole thing, right? Okay? This is going to sound really strange, but I'm actually in favor of that. You know why? And there's a specific reason here. The specific reason is because that's kind of what I do on my own show. If you read the rules when you join my stream, there's one big thing, and it says, don't be a dick. Right? You remember that? That rule is basically my equivalent of what I just read from Blizzard. It means that I have, at my sole discretion, the ability to just get rid of you from my channel if I choose to, for any reason. Now, I have proven over years of streaming and being on YouTube, that I don't do that unless there's something really specific that you do that justifies it. Point in fact, it has actually been a very long time since I have had to ban someone. It's usually for someone trying to dox, someone who is a bot, or someone who's a total asshole. That's pretty much the big reasons for me. You follow? The reason that is worded so loosely is because of the fact that it can then be applied in multiple situations. Now, you might be thinking, well, Lore, why don't you just make a specific ruling? To be completely blunt, because that's actually not how that works. If you write a rule saying don't do this, people will find a way to do that without doing that. That's called a technically. That's where that term comes from, by the way. It's when you follow the letter of the law and ignore the spirit of the law, right? So the more specific you write that rule, the more people will just find a way around it. Yeah, you cannot anticipate everything. Anyone who's ever programmed at any point in their life knows you just can't anticipate everything. So, I'm in favor of that. Now, this is... Yeah, no kidding, Gary. This is where we get to opinion, more opinion, basically. No, that's not an opinion. It's my opinion that Jobbers TV is awesome. Thank you very, very much for the sub, even though I probably don't deserve it, as I'm talking about something that I shouldn't even be talking about until the end of Halloween, or end of October, excuse me. Thank you very, very much. I'm trying to think of how to phrase this. That's why I'm hesitating so much here. Okay, so let's pretend you're a company that makes carrots. Okay? Here you are. And you make carrots, and someone decides to pop up and be like, let's say that Nazi Germany exists, okay? Just to make this nice and simple, all right? So, Nazi Germany, well, they come out of the ground. Nazi Germany buys carrots, a decent amount of carrots. However, they're Nazi Germany. You with me so far? So the Nazis want you, the company that makes these carrots, to do very specific things with regards to how you're allowed to... Now, they're not going to ask you to actually kill anyone. They're not going to ask you to go and be like... But they might ask you to not associate with any Semites, or maybe they want you to push a pro-Nazi agenda or try to portray Nazi Germany in a positive light, all that kind of stuff, right? You with me? So they want you to do that, and then they'll buy your carrots. Now, they have a lot of money, and they will buy a lot of carrots from you. You with me so far? Now, I'm setting this whole situation up because this comes down to a matter of choice. There's two ways to approach this. The law applies equally, or taking a stance on specific matters. This is probably where Huthor is really going to disagree with me on this, by the way. Because if the law applies equally, then if someone at the carrot tournament, I know this analogy is breaking down, just bear with me. If someone at the carrot tournament decided to show up and say, screw Nazi Germany, you know, go the resistance, go Poland, right? That's not a bad analogy. Go Poland, right? If someone decided to do that on an official channel, on an official thing, you now have a choice to either apply the rules equally and say they can't do that, or decide to take a choice on the matter, which means you're probably going to lose that market. If you choose to apply things equally, that means you cannot say pro or anti-Nazi sentiments. In fact, you can't say anything. It is basically applying the don't get political line across the board, regardless of the incident, regardless of the agenda. If you choose to take a side on a specific point, it means you as a company have decided this is a line we're going to toe up to this point. It will cost you in sales, but doing so itself is effectively a marketing strategy. And I mean, you'll notice I'm not actually talking about morals or ethics, okay? That's not actually a part of this, as weird as that may sound. This is purely from a financial, a marketing, and a political perspective, okay? These are your choices. Now, Blizzard has chosen to go this way, towards applying the law equally. To be blunt, I do not agree with that. Hang on, Gary. Let me scroll up. Oh my god, that's it. I gotta read this one out. Gary says, he will make the best carrots. Eviscerate the proletariat. There. Just because it's a terrible joke and it needs to be repeated. Well, that's it. See, the problem with that, Necro, is that's still developing, and I'm not willing to talk about that while it's still developing. Now, I think Huthor's not saying anything, of course. So, Blizzard has chosen to apply things equally, supposedly.
Your
Come on.
will be rewarded.
You know what? I will look at that in a minute. I don't want to lose my train of thought. Now, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing is going to be up to the individual perspective. But there is another reason why I listed that large list of other companies that are complicit in the whole Chinese censorship oppression thing, okay? And that is specifically because of the fact that if you choose... Let me give my final big opinion right here, okay? This is going to sound weird. If you want to boycott Blizzard products, go for it. If you choose not to boycott Blizzard products, say that 5 times fast, then go for it. Neither of those people have any right to think ill of the other. That's my core opinion here. Okay? If you say, I can't be attached to that, that's on you. Go for it. If you've decided to walk away from it, that's fine. All you have to do is walk into it with an understanding of the society we live in. Because if you go ahead and boycott Blizzard, do you eat chocolate? I like to use chocolate as my favorite example of this, but there are many examples. No, I'm going to ruin chocolate. If you purchase chocolate from Nestle in particular, you are supporting both slave labor and child labor. That is a fact. That's not an opinion. Did you know there was actually a court hearing about this a few years ago? It was a court order to try and force Nestle in order to regulate where they get their chocolate from to reduce the amount of child labor, specifically with regards to the harvesting and whatnot. You know what the court ruling was? That's not Nestle's job. Funnily enough, I'm actually not a big fan of chocolate. But I like to use chocolate as the example because it's all that way. What internet are you using to watch me right now? Are you using Google by chance? Do you use Google at any point in time? Because Google's a part of this. Do you... Thank you very much, Bottle Crow Member. Much appreciated. I don't want to lose my train of thought, so give me a second. Do you use any Apple product? Do you purchase or perceive anything that comes from Disney? And Amazon? Yeah. The mere fact that you're watching me right now means you are complicit. And so am I. And this is why I say we can't judge each other on this one. We all choose our hills to die on. We all choose where our lines are, okay? You cannot, I'm sorry, you cannot avoid being complicit. You just can't. Not if you're existing in the world and in society today. It's not possible. And that's why I say you can't judge each other on this one. You can't, because both sides have simply decided to pick and choose where their lines are. Some people buy organic food. Some people purchase clothing from certain situations. There are certain companies. Some people refuse to support other companies. Right? Everyone picks their lines. Everyone picks their hills to die on. And there's nothing wrong with that. Because you can't fight all of it without literally going to a self-subsistence farming situation in the middle of nowhere. And even in that situation, you are still supporting it, just differently. You with me? Yeah, I mean, today I'm going to play a Switch game, which was made in China. This hardware that I'm holding in my hand was made in China. It says it right there. Made in China. Very, very small, but it's there. In my notes, this is the final bullet point I had, and I call it the uncomfortable reality of modern society. It's all I wrote down, because I knew what that meant. I wonder where my water came from. Apparently someplace called Lakeland in Florida. Don't know who owns that. Let's talk about a few other things while we're on the topic. Stop subbing! Jesus Christ! God damn it. All right. Let's rewind. I got a donation earlier. Thank you very much, Slartek, for the donation. Much obliged and appreciate, as always. Thank you. I will put that down for Banjo Tooie, specifically. So thank you very, very much, Jay. And thank you, Battle Programmer, both of you, for your subs. As ever, you know the question. Where would you like to put that? No! Ah! There's apparently the pause in the thing here. Jay, if you've answered, I've lost it. And I've got Cold Steel 2 for Battle Programmer. And I've got KOTOR for Arathrobo. Thank you very, very much, Arathrobo. Much appreciated as always, sir. Now, those bits were from King's Fold, but I missed where they were going. He said it. Hang on, let me scroll up. That was a Jesus Christ, King's Fold. Website, Revensteg. That's all I have to say about that. Hang on. I lost it. There it is. Link's Awakening. That's what it's going towards. Yeah, I have a... Did you guys know I have a website? Fusion Fall Retro. Well, that means I'm going to have to look into it, Jay. So I can't commit to that right now. Oh, shoot. Damn it. Already scrolling off the page. 1591. Fusion Fall Retro. I will look into it, but I will not promise anything until I have done so. But thank you, Jay. And God, thank you so much, Kingsfold. Thank you very, very much. Much obliged and appreciated. So much. Thank you, sir. Now, the good news is everyone stopped, so I can cover a couple other points. Some people have said we should vote with our wallet. So, okay. Earlier, I mentioned how Blizzard actually gave a response. Some of you who are on my Discord knows that I made a comment that said, one way or another, Blizzard will have shown their hand by Sunday. You remember me saying that? That's because I actually predicted something that didn't happen. I'll go ahead and admit I was wrong on this one. But Blizzard, by action or lack of action, would have shown their hand if a full week had passed and nothing had actually happened, if they hadn't actually responded. Now, the response they gave... So I do want to discuss that briefly. And I do mean briefly, because I don't want to be here for an hour, because that's how long it would take. By the way, remember, we have a vote right now, and I only have 58 votes, so please vote on that if you haven't. So the statement I want to make here, or rather the comments I want to make on the statement, is I have spent the better part of the last 22? 21? Nah, that's not right. 21-ish years dissecting and analyzing what I call corporate speak. Corporate speak is actually pretty similar to legalese. It's just a less horrible version of it. But yeah, so having gone over this one fairly a decent amount, I'm going to go ahead and give a prediction right now that I'll never know the truth of. In my opinion, J. Allen Brack did not write this document. It is also my opinion that he barely read it before he went ahead and signed it. Now, that's not really saying much, because that's very normal. That's extremely normal. This is what we call a crafted document. This was made by a team of people, probably working with another team of people. This was very slowly processed into being a very specific type of document, which basically says nothing, and then goes back to, you know, certain other aspects of it. Now, I called your attention to a few parts on this. So let me go ahead and say something real quick, while we're in the realm of opinion now. 6 months span is too much, in my opinion, for both of them. Even if I was in charge, even if I was the XO on point for this one, and the money people, which I'm going to talk about that too, are basically telling me, you have to toe the line, I would be like, okay. And I would reprimand Blitzchung. I wouldn't take his money, that's stupid. But I would go ahead and give him a temp ban, a slap on the wrist, and be like, don't do this again. If you do this again, the problem will be worse. We'll have more severity in terms of punishment. But for right now, this is a slap on the wrist. And that's what I would do. 30 days is probably around where I would go. Well, they didn't actually do McGuy. They gave it back. But in fairness, the reason they did it earlier was that. Now, Barron says they reacted too quickly. Now, that's funny he says that, because I disagree. You remember I mentioned that 48 hours thing? I kept pointing that out because that means that for 2 days they deliberated on how they were going to respond to this situation. That was not a knee-jerk reaction. That was deliberated. That was thought upon. People put effort and work into deciding how to respond. And after putting time and effort and work into this, they decided to ban him for a year, ban them for a year, and take all his money from him. That is very important, because one of the things that was said in this very carefully crafted document was... Give me a minute. And I quote, "We've had a chance to pause, to listen to our community, and to reflect on what we could have done better. In hindsight, our process was inadequate, and we reacted too quickly." Now, I'm getting into the weeds a little bit here, and this is when people in chat are going to start getting upset at me, but whatever. If you're going to hate me for who I am, okay? As I've said, not only have I spent 20 years analyzing corporate speak, I've spent about 35 years, that's a lie. Let's go with 32. 32 years. No, I'm allergic, Colin Peluso. For 32 years or so, I've been analyzing human communication. It's actually a subject that's always been absolutely incredibly interesting to me. Body language and how people talk and how people react and all kind of things, right? I've spent almost my entire life analyzing how people communicate, because there's so much that's being said that are not the words being spoken, right? Like I said, this has been fascinating to me since I was a very young child. So, when you say something that feels like giving a bone, basically, yes, preachings. That's all I've been talking about today. That Arshan guy, he's super dead. I killed him myself with a knife. Anyways, but yeah, no, that what he says with that we reacted too quickly, that's what we call, I don't know the official term, and there's official terms for all this crap. That's the fake excuse, okay? That's the, oh, I made a mistake by doing such and such, but it's a lie, basically. It is a lie to try and show that you are willing to admit that you did wrong when you didn't. When it's just something over there. It's adding a layer of protective thing, right? It's like, oh, no, oh, I'm sorry, I was too fast on me there, man. Let me try to do this a little bit better. There's also a couple other comments he makes which are blatant lies. Speaking of which, here's another one, and I quote, "The specific views expressed by Blitzchung were not a factor in the decision we made. I want to be clear, our relationship in China had no influence on our decision." Now, this is a provable lie, because it was actually the offices in China that actually made the original call. So... right. This is ignoring the obvious fact that this is a blatant lie. Now, I cannot prove the rest of the fact that this is a lie. I can't. But... I mean, does anybody believe that? Even people who are pro-Blizzard on this, and there's plenty of people who are pro-Blizzard or pro-whatever on this, I have not heard a single person who's actually believed that particular lie. And I have no hesitation just straight up calling it a lie. Ah, Kevin, that's a very off-topic thing. So, yes, preachings. Back in the fact section. We're in the opinion section now. So Kevin says, basically Kevin's saying that you have to say you've been doing something for a long time for anybody to take you seriously. Which I actually agree is kind of bullcrap, because I know managers personally who have been managers for huge chunks of time in the decades range, and they are terrible managers. But everyone thinks they're good managers because they've been doing managing for 20 years or whatever, right? The problem is when you're doing surface level whatever, you don't have any other way of verifying. I was only mentioning it because I was pointing out how this has always been a topic of interest for me, how people communicate. But anyways. I want to mention one other thing really quick here. I'm going to go and link this, but I actually read through this whole thing, and it's actually a fascinating read. So, I'm just going to read it out loud for those of you who don't feel like clicking that. I have been keeping quiet out of fear, but as an English major and Chinese speaker, I feel like I need to point this out, since I don't know how many people will know enough to explain. The Blizzard post really seemed like it was written by a Chinese, non-native English speaker. Before I go into this, I want to point out that the tone and language is all over the place. All over the place. Some are more native English phrasings, others seem like typical Chinese, which makes me think there's some cobbling together here. In Chinese, it's very common to use ellipses and space them out just like this. It doesn't happen in English. Usually this starts with the first person and uses casual contractions. What's happening? Contractions don't exist in Chinese, so using them in formal situations is a common error. In Chinese, it's typical to add what an English teacher might call topic sentences at the beginning and end of paragraphs. This isn't conventional and sounds very heavy-handed in English. In the same vein, headers containing incomplete clauses or rhetorical questions before paragraphs are common in Chinese, but clunky in English. For an example, look at the HZS crystal callout. I don't actually know what that is. Also, why are Blizzard parts indented? Doesn't look like it was copy-pasted, blah, blah. So I'm actually not going to read the whole thing. It's like 6 more pages. But the point being, or 6 more posts, this guy thinks that this was something that the Chinese government wrote and then made them say. You know, that's the conspiracy theory there. To be clear, I don't actually believe that. However, I do think he's onto something because he is absolutely right about his construction of it. I know I read it very quickly, but I have read this thing many times. This is not a normal sentence, even by typical corporate speak. And the biggest point I think that he is correct on is the fact that this is something that was collaborated on by Chinese people who are not native English speakers. I guarantee that with high certainty, in fact. In other words, this is something that was probably, I mentioned the Teams thing. They probably actually specifically had several of their Chinese team members working on this document, in addition to whatever lawyers and corporate speakers they had over on this side working on this document. Yeah. It's not as blatant as, say, what you'd normally take as bad English, like with Blitzchung's statement, no offense to the man. But the structure of it is frankly wrong. just put it as simply as possible. Which is one of the reasons I tried to kind of indicate that. Now, I also want to mention one other thing here really quick. There's... Hang on. Dallas Fuel's assistant coach Justin Conroy said Wednesday he was directed to delete a tweet that was critical of punishment levied by Activision Blizzard on a Hearthstone player who voiced his support for Hong Kong's pro-democracy protest movement. Jane, via Twitter messaging, declined comment. Activision Blizzard and NV Gaming, who are owners of the Overwatch League franchise Dallas Fuel, did not immediately respond for a request for comment. Activision Blizzard said Tuesday it kicked a Hong Kong esports pro... All the rest of this is stuff you've already heard and I've already mentioned. Look. Gnomes for life, yo. That's part of why I can say that's a provable lie, dude McGuy. It's entirely possible that it's not as bad as it looks, but the fact that it's only merely possibly not as bad as it looks is not really a good thing. Oh yeah, while we're on this subject, I've always been a big supporter of peaceful protest. I know it's not always a feasible thing. But speaking of peaceful protest, I'm just going to link that. It's a GoFundMe for people who want to make BlizzCon shirts supporting Hong Kong for people attending BlizzCon this year. I just thought I'd link it. I'm not going to put any money to it, and I don't expect you to put any money towards it. I am just mentioning it because I think this is actually a pretty cool idea. God, what else? I have so many things to say about this, and I'm just circling around here. I think that's all my major links there. Let me look at my notes. Ah, yes. I said I'd talk about the money people thing. This is another interesting point. In the middle of all of this crap, Epic Game... I can't remember the name of the guy. The president of Epic said, we would never make this happen. Well, we would never do this. And basically no one I've ever heard has believed a word he said. Tim Sweeney, thank you. Which is a load of hooey. That, I'll tell you exactly what that is. That's Epic getting some free good press. That's all that is. Now, but I did want to bring that up in specific because it highlights the problem here. Because so corporate structure, right? The very purpose of a corporation, at its basic level, at its most bared down, crucible down to its most basic level, the purpose of a corporation is to remove blame. You with me? If you screw up, no, it's not to make money. That's a company's job. A corporation's job is to remove blame. It's to remove responsibility and to make sure that the corporate entity, which if you're paying attention, doesn't actually exist, it's a concept, is the thing that takes blame with regards to financial matters, legal matters, etc. Okay? Now, there's actually multiple levels of this and multiple types of this, but I'm bringing all of this up because the point is the president of a company is not actually in charge of a company. That's not actually true. The president of a company may actually have a decent amount of sway in the company. They may have some kind of hold on the board. They may have some kind of positions of power or some strength they could use, or they might have political sway. But they are not the ones actually in charge of the company. The investors are the ones actually in charge of any privately or publicly traded company, which Activision Blizzard is, which brings us back around. If you own a portion of a company, that company is incumbent to report to you. You have the option to go ahead and call meetings of other fellow investors. You have the options to interact with fellow investors and to push agendas. You actually have the right in bad situations to literally call for the removal of members of the board, to actually remove the board from power entirely and vote in a new board members. You can fire the president and the CEO. Now, obviously, how much specific influence you have depends on what percentage of the company you owned. But that is the point I'm trying to make. If you are... Okay, Colin Peluso, you got it. I'm sorry, guys. I've been removed from the stream by my investor. Well, I just heard word that Colin Peluso wants me back, so I'm back. Alright, so all of this is relevant because... where do I even begin? There's two topics here I'm trying to address, and they're actually rather complicated, so give me a moment to organize my thoughts here. If you... That's probably a bad thing, Jay. If you are... The people who... I use a term called money people, okay? Now, to be clear, that's my own terminology. What it means is the people who are specifically in charge of making decisions with regards to companies, okay? And I say companies, not corporations. That can be... It's... I use such a generic term because who exactly it is varies from company to company, right? However, in the case of both privately and publicly traded corporations, money people is usually another company, usually an investment firm. Now, there's an associated topic, but let's say, I actually don't remember how much of Blizzard Activision Tencent owns right now. Let's just assume it's 10% to make a point, okay? I don't remember the exact number, but it doesn't actually matter, okay? They own it's 5%, okay, excuse me, it's 5%. God, that's huge. Okay, so they own, that's actually more than I thought it was. They own 5% of Blizzard, Activision Blizzard, okay? Now, you might think, oh my god, they have the ability to have 5% of voting. Well, no. It doesn't work quite that linearly. Now, if you do have majority share, you do have certain rights and choices you can make. But majority isn't exactly what it sounds like. Majority doesn't mean 51%. Majority means you have the biggest percent of however many percents are out there. There have actually been circumstances in real life where someone has owned about, I think it was 8% of the stock, and they were the majority shareholder because they had the biggest single chunk of shares, okay? Now, that does give you special powers and privileges. However, that's not really the point. What you do have is the ability to sway the rest based on the agenda you're pushing. Now, that 5% is probably going to be pro-Chinese. Duh. So let's go ahead and move that off to the side. So we have 95% of the rest of the stock, right? Now, some of that is owned by individuals who own large chunks of the company, but most of that is actually owned by, well, like people like you and me, really. But you only probably have a few thousand shares or 100 shares or even 5 shares. You don't technically own those shares in the strictest sense of the word. You actually hire an investment firm, which then actually does the trading for you, which then means the investment firm is the one who actually owns those shares. And a few million people goes to the investment firms, which means of this 95%, a very large chunk of it, I don't know a number, so I'm not going to estimate, is owned by investment firms. Now, what is an investment firm's job? Their only job. Like I say a lot of times that companies' primary job is to make money, and investment firms' only job is to make more money. Specifically more, by the way. Make more money. So, if this 5% is pushing a pro-Chinese agenda, and that is making the company more money, what do you think the other investment firm percent is going to be pushing? These are the money people. Now, another topic here that's related to this. This is getting really heavily into the realm of speculation, but I have done a couple of looks into this, and this was true at least as of about a year ago. I don't know if it's still true. This is going to sound so strange to say, but what the Chinese government was doing was actually pretty smart. I know what you're thinking. What? Hear me out. Let's say that you are a person. And let's say that by circumstance you happen to be rich. Okay? That was a crappy snap. Let's try that again. There we go. You're rich now. Congratulations. Now, real question. You've just been dropped $11 million. Taxes are already dealt with. So let's just assume this is net, okay? Not gross. You now have $10 million. What do you do with it? What's like one of the first things you consider doing with all that money? No, Kingsfold. Invest it is the answer I was looking for. Now, I don't know about you guys, but here in the States, because I know a lot of you don't live in the States, but here in the States, that is so normal that it's considered the duh thing to do. You take that money and you invest it. You make it go to work for you, right? You hire a financial planner or an estate planner, or both, and you pass it off to an investment firm, which then takes your $11 million, or however much you give them, let's say $5 million, and they go do what investment firms do. And you kind of see the problem, right? you kind of see how this kind of thing gets started. I'm just talking about like winning the lottery thing. $10 million is a joke compared to the people who have real money. Bobby Kotick thinks $10 million is a joke, and he's not rich. He's just high up. Like, you catch all this? What did the Chinese government do? Well, They bought into companies so they'd have a controlling interest. Now, do you get it, or do I need to keep going? See, most organizations and individuals over here are interested in making more money, are interested in, pushing their agendas or their specific agendas, which is usually just their own self-aggrandizement. The Chinese government has been acting with perspective of a private institutionalization, which means they are pushing things as an aggregate force to accomplish a goal rather than to make more money. They were playing the same game for different goals. To use a really dumb example, let's say you're playing baseball, and the other team is determined to win no matter what, and you're determined to wave at the crowd. I know this is a dumb analogy. You want to wave at the crowd. Every time you get to wave at the crowd, you get another point, basically. That's your goal. Like, no matter how well they play, it doesn't matter. You don't care. Because you're interested in something else. Let me use, I got a better analogy for this. There's a book called Federation, which I highly recommend to anybody who likes Star Trek books, by the way. And Federation is a book that actually has an idea so cool I have stolen it for some of my own stuff. That's actually an even better analogy, Fusion Catalyst. But I want to use this one because it's a good analogy. In that book, there's this one person who is one of the richest people in the world. I don't mean like in the top 100, I mean in the top 3, okay? He is legitimately uber rich. It's a great book. I love that book. He poured money, basically destroyed his own finances to ensure that humanity would develop space travel and all of the associated techs that are necessary to make space travel happen. Right? He did so to literally destroying his own finances and his own economic funding because he wasn't playing to make more money. He was, and this is a partial quote, hi Goldberg, this is a partial quote, he wanted to make sure that humanity no longer needed Earth to survive. And lo and behold, when World War III hit, there were people who were in colonies. Earth survived World War III because this one guy was playing for a different game. He was waving at the crowd. Now, this is roughly what the Chinese government has been doing. Obviously not for the betterment of humanity or anything like that, but because of the fact that they are playing with different rules and different intent, they can go ahead and buy their way into a controlling interest in a huge amount of corporations and companies in order to expressly push their own agendas on a global level and ensure a continued financial supremacy for the Chinese internal market because it's constantly being fed by the external market. What they did and are doing, and are still doing to my knowledge, is very smart. Yay. Kinda, yeah, Andrew. I actually had a thought. I know, right, Goldberg? Yeah. I had a thought. Wasn't it nice back in the good old days when they would just make a giant army and try to march over enemy territories and conquer them the old-fashioned way? Oh, those were the days, right? I'm kidding. I don't want World War III. World War II was a nightmare for everyone. We all know this. Anybody who's even distantly studied World War II knows how bad that really was. But I have to admit, I was legitimately reminded of Command and Conquer Red Alert. No joke. I was just thinking, in Command and Conquer Red Alert specifically, the Soviet Union is just marching on Europe. just with a bunch of tanks, But yeah, no, I know. Financial power has always been a very strong element of society. Is it Denmark? There's a European country which has like no real resources. It had, this is past tense, had no real resources, had no massive manpower, had no, doomy force, and yet was just completely dominating the economics of Europe for a very long time. And I can't remember the name of the country right now. This is like 1800s range. The reason why is because they were playing specifically at the financial sector. Was it the Netherlands? I don't remember. I'm going to go ahead and admit that. But it's always fascinating to read about that period of history, because they were just very, very carefully controlling the flow and amount of credit that they gave, which allowed them just unprecedented control over external affairs, because it was always more profitable to invest in them than it was in something internal, which meant they had money coming in, which allowed them to push money out. The name of the book is Federation, Mike. I don't remember the author. I'm sorry, Venters. Oh, I know, right, Golvard? Doesn't that sound like fun? Now, I did have one final thing to talk about this whole complicated, convoluted mess, okay? This is going to sound really dumb, especially given how much of a cynical, bitter person I am in real life, because I am, and I admit it. Because I look at this situation and I say, what can I do about that? What can I do about any of this? Nothing. I am utterly powerless, and I know it. All I can do is try to inform you guys. That's all I got. I cannot, if I start boycotting one company, or even all the companies, all it's going to do is make it so that I get hungry very quickly. But I do want to say one thing. A lot of people look at this situation and see that it's bad and horrible. And you know what? It is. This is a bad situation. And it is. And I don't want to say that it's not. But it's been worse. As any student of history will tell you, it's been worse. This is good compared to what we've been. This is so much better than what we've had. You go back 100 years. Just 1 century. This is loads better than it used to be. Go back 3 centuries, or 10. Go back to the point where most people didn't even know how to read or to communicate properly. It has been getting better. It's been inching. And greed and, frankly, evil have been trying to push things back, but it has been getting better, historically speaking. It still sucks. I'm not trying to say it doesn't suck. That's why I started with that. I'm only pointing out the fact that, historically speaking, life has actually been improving, and I think that's important to keep in mind. Because logically, otherwise, what's the point? I'm not secretly evil. Puppies. So we'll see. It's like Melkor Blade there. He used to be evil, but now he's much better. He's gotten over his evil streak. All the evil is gone. Thank you very much, Melkor Blade. Much obliged and appreciate, sir, as always. And you know the question. And welcome to the Year Club, actually, it looks like. See, you say that, Hazardous. I disagree, kind of. I mean, obviously, being a slave would not be good in general. Duh. But the problem is you're looking at one very specific slice of things that were better. And you're right. But I would posit that I live a better life than the richest person in Greece back in 72. Me, right now. Up, like, middle, lower class. I have air conditioning. I have good food. If I need healthcare, I can get it. I have comfortable clothing. I have a nice bed that doesn't hurt me. I have indoor plumbing. Yeah, that's right. I have indoor plumbing. I know that's such a very, very minor thing. But think about that for a second. That's kind of recent. Oh yeah, electricity. I have the ability to stimulate my mind. I can sit here and read a book. And I can just do this for fun if I wanted to. I have internet. I have lots of interaction with other people. I have a wealth of information at my resources. I will fight you on this tooth and nail, Hazardous. I'm sorry. I would rather be me now than the richest person in Rome. 10 times out of 10. No question on that one for me. Yeah, I'm not at risk of dying because I got a bad cut. So, anyways. Now, the point of all that wasn't to be like life is good. The point of all that was to be that life is not hopeless. That's really the point. That life is not actually hopeless. It's still bad. Right? Life still sucks, right? The world sucks, actually. Life is great. The world sucks. But it's not hopeless.